Woke up this morning and my partner left this on the table, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. As I was eating breakfast, I opened the book up, and when I open a book, I always ask the book to give me something that I need to hear. And I opened up to page 288, and it really hit home for me because I honestly feel most at home when I remember death like it was yesterday. So it is something for me that has been there since childhood. Page 286. It's been there since childhood, and I remember before I was born. And I don't talk about this too much, so I'm really making this video because I want to share something that I think is super important for people to know before they die. Really, really powerful stuff that's in this book that is specific to the colors that you will see, spiritually see, when you pass. And what's going to be said in this book transcends religions, which means that it doesn't matter what form. This is going to reference more Buddhist forms for deities. But if you are of a different religion, the energies will manifest in other forms that you are more accustomed to. That is something. These energies are internal. They're inside all of us as beings, and they will come in the form that you are most accustomed to. If you are a religious person, it'll become in whatever form that is. So it's super important. I want to share this with you, and I tried to record this a little bit earlier, and then I had a little issue with the power on my phone. So it's plugged in. I'm gonna go for it now. So we're gonna start with a story. The story in here. This will be about 2-page reading, but the story goes from a Buddhist monk coming to help a friend who just died and speaking to the consciousness of the dead friend. So that's where the story begins. It's going to give very, very specific information on the colors to see, what to go toward, and what to avoid when you pass. And this interconnects to a lot of the teachings that I do as a Tai Chi coach. And again, I coach for high performance. I coach for making things happen in practical reality. However, the foundation of these principles to perform at a high level are gateways into spiritual experience, and that's why I find this stuff so powerful and important. That's why I'm going to share. So let's start with this story. Let us take an example of the appearance of one of the peaceful Buddhas from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which will illustrate this whole process. The master or spiritual friend addresses the consciousness of a dead person in this scene. O son, daughter of an enlightened family, listen without distraction. On the third day, a yellow light will arise, which is pure essence of the element earth. Simultaneously, from the yellow southern Buddha field known as the Glorious, the Buddha Ratna Sambhava will appear before you. Once again, disregard the Buddha, the terminology for a Buddha. This is energy that manifests across all religions because it's inherent energy. So it's only taking the form of a Buddha in this story. Let's continue. Ratna Sambhava will appear before you, his body yellow in color and holding a wish-fulfilling jewel in his hand. He presides upon a throne borne up by horses and is embraced by the supreme female consort, Mamaki. So here we have masculine and feminine divine energies encapsulating a being. Really important. Around him are the two male bodhisattvas, Akasargarbha and Bhadra, and the two female bodhisattvas, Mala and Dupa, so that 6 Buddha bodies appear from within the expanse of rainbow light. The inherent purity of the skandha of feeling, which is the equalizing wisdom, a yellow light dazzling and adorned with tinkles of light, large and small, radiant and clear, and unbearable to the eyes, will stream towards you from the heart of Ratnasambhava and his consort, and pierce your heart so that your eyes cannot stand to gaze at it. So it's super important here. You have a radiant yellow light that comes at you, and again, you're not in your body anymore, so you spiritually see the light. And it's so intense that it's really challenging to maintain seeing it. You may not want to see it because it's so intense. Here, let's continue. At exactly that time, together with the light of wisdom, a dull blue light representing the human realm will come towards you and pierce your heart. Then, driven by pride, you will flee in terror from the intensity of the yellow light, but delight in the dim blue light of the human realm, and so become attached to it. At this moment, do not be afraid of the piercing yellow light in all its dazzling radiance, but recognize it as wisdom. Let your Rigpa, which is your pure awareness, rest in it, relaxed, at ease, in a state free of any activity, and have confidence in it, have devotion and longing towards it. If you recognize it, the yellow light, as the natural radiance of your own Rigpa, your awareness, even though you do not have devotion and have not said the necessary prayer of inspiration, all the Buddha bodies and rays of light will merge inseparably with you, and you will attain Buddhahood. If you do not recognize the natural radiance of your own Rigpa, pure awareness, your own pure awareness, then pray to it with devotion, thinking, this is the light of the compassionate energy of Buddha Ratnasambhava. I take refuge in it, quote unquote. Since it is in fact the Buddha Ratnasambhava coming to guide you amid the terrors of the bardo, and it is the light ray hook of his compassionate energy, so fill your heart with devotion to it. Okay, let's pause right there for a second. So what was just said was that when you die, you're going to see a yellow light, and you're going to see a blue light. The yellow light is a yellow light of wisdom that can pull you out of the cycle of death and rebirth. The blue light is the blue light of the human experience, which will pull you back into suffering. And it is much easier, and it's much easier to go toward that blue light because you're more accustomed to it. And the yellow light, the purity, is terrifying, a terrifying level of purity. And this is a reminder. It's giving you guidance on saying, hey, focus on the purity. Don't be terrified by it. Recognize it as your own pure awareness. Go toward that. And if you are not at the spiritual level to recognize it as your own pure awareness, then pray to it. So therefore, we have prayer as technology. So prayer as technology, or a tool utilized to hook you, as you specifically says the term, hook you to that light, to allow the light as the hook, seeing it as the hook, to hook you and bring you to it. So you use prayer if you are at if you don't recognize it as yourself, at a lower spiritual level, use prayer as tool to hook to that higher spiritual level and go toward it. But do not go toward the blue light if you don't want to continue the cycle of death and rebirth. Okay, so now let's continue. Do not delight in the dim blue light of the human realm. This is the seductive path of habitual tendencies which you have accumulated through intense pride. If you are attached to it, you will fall into the human realm, where you will experience the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And you will miss the chance to emerge from the swamp of samsara. This dull blue light is an obstacle blocking the path to liberation. So do not look at it, but abandon pride. Abandon its habitual tendencies. Do not be attached to the blue light. Do not yearn for it. Feel devotion and longing for the dazzling, radiant yellow light. Focus with total attention on the Buddha Ratnasambhava and say this prayer. Again, the Buddha, that is it. This is a template. So if you are of a different religious path, etc., it's going to be a different deity. And the same with this next prayer that they'll give you right now, which is essentially, it is a template for you to utilize. Generally, I call it information hierarchy in my coaching. Information hierarchy means that you have a particular layers of certain types of information, and you can input and swap out the information that you wish to based on your intention, and based on your personal training, you can swap out. It's like modular. You can like plug things into it. And so this prayer is something that you can utilize regardless of your religion and plug your own things into it. So it'll have a masculine energy. It'll have a feminine energy. Of course, that is balance. And the masculine will drive or penetrate. It'll drive toward the destination while the feminine will hold a container. And so here, let's talk about that right now. Oh, let's actually read the prayer right now. Here's the prayer. Alas, when through intense pride I wander in samsara, may the Buddha Ratnasambhava lead the way. That's the masculine energy. On the radiant path of light, which is the equalizing wisdom. May the supreme female consort Mamaki walk behind me. May they help me through the dangerous pathway of the bardo and bring me to the perfect Buddha state. By saying this prayer of inspiration with deep devotion, you will dissolve into rainbow light in the heart of the Buddha Ratnasambhava and his consort and become the Sambhagakaya Buddha in the southern Buddha field known as the Glorious. Again, this is finishing up right now, last page. This description of the appearance of the Buddha Ratnasambhava concludes by explaining that through this showing by the master or spiritual friend, the showing means the conversation of the master coming to someone who's dying or who's dead, actually, the person's already dead, and speaking to their consciousness. This is a form of showing. And so this showing is, through this showing, liberation is certain, however weak the dead person's capacities may be. Yet, even after being shown many times, the Tibetan Book of the Dead says, there are those who, because of negative karma, will not recognize and gain liberation. Disturbed by desire and obscurations, and terrified by the different sounds and lights, they will flee. So, on the following day, the next Buddha, Omi Tofo, the Buddha of limitless light, with his mandala of deities, will appear in all splendor of his dazzling red light, manifesting together with the dim, seductive yellow light path of the hungry ghosts, which is created out of desire and meanness. And so the Tibetan Book of the Dead introduces the appearance of each of the peaceful and wrathful deities in turn in a similar way. So again, this transcends all religious paths because and we're going to talk about it right now. I am often asked, will the deities appear to a Western person? And if so, will it be in familiar Western forms? The answer, the manifestations of the bardo of Dharmata are called spontaneously present. This means that they are inherent and unconditioned and exist in all of us. Their arising is not dependent on any spiritual realization we may have. Only the recognition of them is. And I love that use of language. That sentence is so important. It's a great example of great sentence structure that a lot of people miss in daily communication. So let's just read that one again. It says that their arising, the arising of these energies that you will experience when you die, have nothing to do with, they're not dependent on your level of spiritual realization. They are not dependent on that because they're inherent in all of us. However, the recognition of their existence does depend on your spiritual level. Meaning that if you're not training yourself to recognize these things, which is why I'm making this video to share with you guys, because like I opened this thing up, it's very similar to a lot of other studies I already do. I wanted to share this with you because it's so clear. The use of language is so clear, and I feel like oftentimes people aren't direct enough and to the point enough. So this video and this particular 2 pages to me is so direct that I just had to share it. So here we go. Let's finish up. Their arising is not dependent on any spiritual realization we may have, only the recognition of them is. They are not unique to Tibetans, they are universal and fundamental experience. But the way they are perceived depends on our conditioning. Since they are by nature limitless, they have the freedom then to manifest in any form. Therefore, the deities can take on forms we are most familiar with in our lives. For example, for Christian practitioners, the deities may take the form of Christ and the Virgin Mary. Generally, the whole purpose of the enlightened manifestation of the Buddhas is to help us. So they may take on whatever form is most appropriate and beneficial to us. But in whatever form the deities appear, it is important to recognize that there is definitely no difference whatsoever in their fundamental nature. So again, it really has nothing to do, like, this is not meant to disrupt anyone's particular spiritual path. Rather, it's supposed to help encourage you on your spiritual path of recognizing these energies when you pass. And it's really important. Like, again, I remember death, like in my best state, when I'm in my best daily state, I can remember death like it's yesterday. And so I do my best to share. I'm doing my best more and putting more effort into sharing the things that help me on a daily basis to perform at the high level, to be able to coach, and to be able to do all the other things that I love to do in life. And doing the things in life have a counterbalance of understanding what happens before and after life. And so, at the very least, conditioning myself to be more acclimated to the transitional states. So I hope this helps you. Again, I'm sure that this is going to be flipped and reversed on the video itself. But it says the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. Very, very powerful stuff. I just picked it up this morning. I've not read this whole book because it's a lot of it does not call to me. But my partner was reading it, had it on the table, and what I opened to this morning definitely spoke to me, and I had to share. So I love you guys. I'm Coach Jan, and if you ever have a thought, question, or idea, I respond to everything on all platforms. So at Jan's Tai Chi, and I love you so much. Hope you have a great day.